Okay, I'd like to call the May 21st Village Board meeting to order. Would you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the
To
flag
the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic,
which stands one nation, under
one
God,
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and
justice for all.
justice for all.
justice for all. All right, roll call, please. Charlene?
I saw her on there. Let me just make sure she's not muted here.
She's muted.
She's muted. There you go, Charlene. I got you. Hold on just a second. Hold on a second. There you go, Char.
Are you sure?
Yes, we got you now.
Yeah, all right. McClafferty,
Here.
Zagowski,
Here.
Stapleton,
Here.
Stapleton,
Here.
Kittredge, Kwasniewski,
Here.
Maher.
Maher's here.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Charlene. Next up, we have the consent agenda, which consists of the following items. We have the approval of disbursements. We have an ordinance O-29-20 amending the Lamont Municipal Code Chapter 5.04, Section 5.04.060.b. It's for alcohol beverages. We're decreasing the number of Class A31 liquor licenses. We also have an ordinance 0-30-20 authorizing the sale and disposal of surplus village property. We have an ordinance 0-31-20 establishing prevailing rates of wages for public works construction projects for the village of Lamont, Cook, Will, and DuPage counties in Illinois. I need a motion for the consent agenda, please.
So moved, Maher.
Second, McClafferty.
Okay, we got a motion by trustee Maher, seconded by trustee McClafferty to approve the consent agenda. Do we have any questions or comments regarding the consent agenda by the trustees? Okay, so all in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Okay, the motion is approved. Next up is the mayor's report. And actually, George, before we get into this any further, we have a change to the agenda, correct?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and I think I'm having some slow internet issues, but let me know if you can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Before I do that, and thank you, I just want to go through the rules again. I know we've been through it a million times, but you know, this is an electronic board meeting due to COVID-19. We've had multiple opportunities for input. You can email prior to the meeting, which we received none. And I'm going to go ahead and try to mute you guys if we're getting some background noise here. You can view the meeting on our YouTube station. You can also participate in the meeting. Just again, there will be an opportunity to participate later in the meeting during the public comment section. And I'll go through that again later on. The one item I'd like to, before we start, maybe we can do it during the mayor's report, is I'd like to entertain a motion to amend the agenda to add a resolution providing for additional outdoor space and expanding liquor licenses to assist bars and restaurants. And this will be added to the end of the clerk's report. Again, this is related to COVID-19. We're going to get into it a little bit more later, but I'd like to, as an emergency measure, without having another meeting before next Friday, I'd like to add this onto our agenda later on, and we can go through it in further detail.
Okay, with that being said, can I have a motion, please, to make this
Maher.
change?
Second, McClafferty.
Okay, motion by trustee Maher, seconded by trustee McClafferty. Do we need to take a vote on this, George? All in favor?
Yep, all in favor.
Yeah, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, the agenda is amended to include that extra item. And to comment further on that, there's quite a bit of discussion down in Springfield over the last couple days. Last week, we talked about specifically the numbers here in Lamont. We're averaging one new positive test per week, or I'm sorry, per day. And we're approximately in the mid 70s, and we're 75 or so days into this COVID-19 outbreak. So to say the least, we're pretty much flattening. If there is, granted, there is a curve at one per day, but that is the flattening of a curve. And with 70 some odd residents, that equals about 0.3% of our population when you think of 22,000 people in our zip code. So as we mentioned before, we've been working with the other communities nearby, 50 plus mayors, trying to work with the governor to basically get our businesses open to some extent, albeit in a very safe manner. And as I mentioned last week, we've been doing that, and I think we've made some pretty good headway. It's great to see the governor call the legislative body back into action last week, and it's great to see the governor make changes and basically understand that local businesses need to be open in some shape or form. One that we'll discuss later on is the ability to open up our restaurants with outdoor seating, and we'll go into more detail on that. But again, it's I think the concerted effort. Appreciate the governor at least acknowledging several of those changes. There were several other things as well that he made, but important to Lamont, it's getting our mom and pop restaurants open in some shape, and we'll share more information on that when we talk about it later on during the motion we just talked about. And again, excited to see that. We'll continue to work with our businesses. We have a standing meeting every Friday with them. This will obviously be the hot topic this week. So again, stay tuned on that. As far as other items, that's pretty much it for the mayor's report. Moving on into the agenda, it's now the clerk's report. Charlene, you want to take that, please?
Thank you. I believe we need a motion to approve the calendar for the next year, starting after Memorial Day, which is real soon, this weekend. We need to make a motion to approve the calendar for this next 12 months.
Okay, I'll make that motion, Snagowski.
Second,
Thank you.
McClafferty.
Okay, motion by Snagowski, seconded by McClafferty. All in favor of the new calendar? Say
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. The motion is approved. The calendar is approved.
Thank you. The first ordinance, if passed this evening, would be O-32-20. And this is a granting of application to 17.12.030 of Vermont Development District to ordinance rather to allow an 5-foot open design fence to be located within the corner side yard of 13691 Kettering Parkway.
Okay, need a motion for 13961 Kettering Drive, please.
So moved, Snagowski.
Okay, I have a motion by Snagowski, seconded by, I didn't hear that trustee name.
Stapleton.
Stapleton. Thanks, guys.
Hey.
Okay, Jason or Mark, are you taking the lead on this?
I'll take it, Mr. Mayor. This is Mark. This request is, as noted, for the property here on the screen, 13691 Kettering Parkway. The applicant is the property owner, Mr. Chris Booth, and he's requesting a variation to increase the allowed height of an open fence from 4 foot to 5 foot in the corner side yard. This request was considered by the Planning and Zoning Commission in a public hearing that was held on May 6, 2020. They voted unanimously in favor of the request, and this item was before the Committee of the Whole meeting this past Monday on May 18th, or was further discussed. Staff is recommending approval of the attached ordinance. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Mark. I know we talked quite a bit about this on Monday. Does any of the trustees have any questions or comments for Mark?
None for me.
Okay, no questions or comments by the trustees. Can we have a roll call, please, Charlene?
Sure. McClafferty,
Yes.
Zagowski,
Yes.
Stapleton,
Yes.
Kittredge, Kittredge, Kittredge. Pardon me?
I got you on, maybe I was, there you go, you're unmuted. She's got thumbs up. We're gonna count that, Mike.
Okay, Kittredge was a yes, an aye, okay.
Yes.
Kwasniewski
Yes.
and Maher.
Yes.
Okay, motion approved.
The next item, if approved this evening, would be a resolution, and this is a resolution R-20. And this is authorizing award of contract for the I&M Canal on the north side parking lot paving.
Okay, need a motion, please.
So moved, McClafferty.
Second, Kwasniewski.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee McClafferty, seconded by trustee Kwasniewski. Ralph, are you taking this one?
I'll take this one, Mr. Mayor, and then if Ralph has
Okay,
any
great.
comments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 6 bids were received on April 30th for the I&M Canal North parking lot, which includes earth excavation, HMA grindings, base course, and other construction. The bid consists of paving 3 parking lots, the north side of the I&M Canal, and it will be used for Heritage Quarry Recreation Area parking and for the Forge. Couple things, we've been working very closely with the Forge on designing, engineering, bidding out, and coordinating this lot. There's been some additional permitting and requirements from MWRD, the Army Corps of Engineers, that had to raise the cost of the overall project, and we're being 100% reimbursed by the Forge, similar to the pedestrian bridge, the road work that was done earlier in the year. So certainly receptive of their concerns. Work with them to reduce the scope by about 30%, and doesn't structural integrity of the lot, just some more superficial items removed from the scope. And been working with the approved contractor or the low bidder to remove those items as we move forward. Jim Kankar, village engineer, Ralph Pakula, they're on board with the changes. It's still going to be, I'll go through real quick and show this at the Cal meeting last week, but just the overall aerial, you can see the location of the existing lot, and the additional lot will pretty much go to the west lot line. I'll go through that a little bit more. Here's the plans. If you see the white striped area is generally where the existing lot is. So you can see that it's about 3 times the size of the existing lot. We'll be able to accommodate 200, 300 parking spaces. There's 2 other lots that are also going to be part of the bid. There's the one that's still north of the I&M Canal, but just near the new pedestrian bridge that was put in. And then there's going to be one further east that we reduced scope on, but still will have about 10 or 15 spots further east. So everyone's on board with the cost reductions. We can work, answer questions on that here in a second. But I did want to talk a little bit about, the authority to bid this project and the overall, construction management and maintenance a lot. There's been a little confusion or maybe lack of clarity on the authority to issue these projects. We're getting reimbursed by the Forge. We're going to be running the project. If you look at the overall quarry area, which we've seen this map before, I brought it up last meeting. You have several entities that own property in the area. The village owns the reserve strip along with this triangle. MWRD owns all the light blue property, and we actually have a leasehold with the MWRD. The township owns land in the yellow, and then there's also some private landowners in the nearby. If you go back to the late 2000s, 2009, the village entered into an intergovernmental agreement with the township, essentially taking their land along with village-owned land and creating a situation where one entity can be in charge of all maintenance, liability, police protection, and actually was contemplated in those agreements in 2009 for the township to acquire the property in yellow. The village actually donated 4 acres of this quarry right here, Icebox Quarry, to the township. All as part of an overall plan to, have the township acquire the property, and the village would be the master entity that kind of maintained it, provided liability. And over the last 10 years, it's worked. We don't have the resources as a town to do what the Forge is doing now, but our public works department's been back there maintaining the trails. We've acquired other funding from different sources. Having one entity in charge of the whole area has worked out. With the Forge coming in, I think that all the liability and the maintenance responsibilities will be transferred to the Forge. But again, I think it's important that we move forward, that we still, the village still takes control of having that responsibility, that we can work with the Forge. And ultimately, we're all working together, with the parking lot specifically, and Mike can chime in. I think it's time to move this project forward. We do need to enter into a 3-party agreement with the township and the Forge regarding the parking revenues, if there are any, maintenance responsibilities, how the Forge is going to be required to maintain it. But with being short on time and the Forge wanting to open by July 1st, and we all want them to open by July 1st if the governor allows it to happen, in the right phasing, I think it makes sense for us to move this project forward. Forge is reimbursing the village. We'll approve tonight after some questions the full contract, and then afterward we'll formally work with the low bidder on reducing the scope, which they've already agreed to in principle. So I'll turn it over to anybody else who has any question. Maybe the mayor, if you have some comments, but definitely want to move this project forward. And
Yeah, George, to add on to that, obviously we're excited for, the Forge and to get this project, continued. The parking lots are a big piece of it. The property owned by both the village and the township, I'll speak for the village. We don't have the resources to maintain this or to maximize it. I know Ralph's group, we're lucky we have a public works, but they're stretched thin, and they've been maintaining all of this property since 2009. I think back then it was determined as, in the best public interest of the village to assume this maintenance as well as liability and the management of it. When there are issues out there, they call the village. When things are not cleaned up, when grass needs to be cut, they call the village. And so, as far as continuing on, we're looking forward to, getting the parking lots done and the park open. And, we're excited about that. And, looking forward to, getting these deals completed. We need to finish this tri-party agreement. I know Mike and George have been working on it with the township and with the Forge. So hopefully we can get this, completed in short order. With that being said, any other comments by any of the trustees or questions?
And Trustee Snagowski had his hand up, so I'll go to you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I've
Rick.
got a question. You've mentioned that there's some party questioning the authority to move forward with these contracts. Who specifically is that questioning the authority?
So if you go back in, and we've been working with the township on this for over a year now, and we entered into an intergovernmental agreement back in June of 2019, about a year ago.
Right.
Now, that essentially took the 2009 IGA, amended it, and specifically mentioned the parking area, that the village was going to construct it, take on maintenance liability, and then even in the agreement, it specifically states, but the village reserves the right to transfer that liability and maintenance to a third party, which here would be the Forge. At that time, the township did not execute their side of it, since some changes. We've been unable to agree on an IGA that properly fits this area. I think, according, and Mike, you can kind of weigh in. So the township attorney was questioning it from my standpoint. I'll leave it to Mike. The 09 IGA and the IGA we approved, we can't hold the Forge up any longer. We're going to get our agreement done with the IGA, with the township. We're going to get our three-party agreement, but with the spirit of moving things forward, that's where we have the authority, right, Mike? I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, we do have the authority. B, we had negotiations, as it's been stated by the mayor and you, George. In 2019, we sent over a document that we thought substantially memorialized what we agreed on, and it appears that now that there's been a change, and we actually received red line from them indicating small, not significant changes, but there's been a change in a philosophy, I think, based on their attorney. So the document they want to go forward with is the tri-party, but we continue to be of the belief, and it was always their belief as well, as far as we know, that we needed to have a separate agreement between the village and the township. But I agree that we have the authority from the 2009 intergovernmental agreement, and it's a matter of finally getting everyone on the same page, which I think most of us thought we had been on for a long time. But it's a hiccup,
Mike, when
we'll
you say they, you're referring to the township attorney? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
And Rick, just to add to that, I've done more lawyer work than I care to do just because of this, but I think I've reread every IGA, every license agreement, and bottom line is back in 2009, the village was, due to the best public interest, I'm reading the contract here, was assigned the management responsibilities to all 50 acres of the township land, which includes management and maintenance.
Right.
And that's what we've been doing. So
right, and we have been fulfilling that obligation per that agreement.
Right, and now there's been somewhat of a change, which is, the township is, well, no, village, you don't need to do that anymore. But the problem is that when something needs to be cleaned up, grass needs to be cut, who gets the call? The village. Who has to manage it when a third party is not doing their job? The village, is the village going to call, hey, you know what, that garbage can is half on township property, half on village property. Can you please empty our half of it? It's silly. You have liability concerns. Someone has a major accident, a drowning. Did that happen on, village property or on township property? It's, the majority of the property is village. When you include all of MWRD, we are the ones that get the calls. We're the ones that have the bandwidth. Granted, we have limited bandwidth, but we have much more, than the township. So I just don't understand. I continue not to understand why we're changing what we did in 2009. So Mike, I leave that up to
even
you.
2019, it was agreed that one party would manage it, and that party was the village in that proposed agreement that we're now talking about. So, okay, I don't understand the change of heart either, or at least a change in understanding, because nothing's changed that we discussed other than potentially somebody's interpretation on their legal team.
I mean, the agreement of the 2019, we all signed off on it. The township did
Right.
not. And so,
Right, but it was discussed with township leadership, although maybe not with their legal team present. And so, like I said, the spirit of cooperation was always there by the leadership. It's only their legal team that is reinterpreting what it was they wanted to do, that being their leadership.
yeah, and that's what we're hoping. I mean, we think the world of Steve and the township
Right,
board. and-
right.
and-
Was there a township vote on it, or it didn't get out of legal?
I don't believe it got out of legal, Dave.
Okay.
So no vote.
Okay.
Didn't get out of legal. That's correct.
And I think the
Okay.
mayor, I mean, just looking at it practically, the most efficient way to handle all of this, if you look at the map here, I mean, it's an intergovernmental delight here. I mean, you got the parking lot itself, even the large one, there's sections that are on the village property, sections on the township property. The other two lots are almost completely on village property. The quarries, in some areas, the water is cut in half by property owners. There's actually on the eastern part of the quarry, it actually crosses into DuPage County. I mean, this is like a case study on intergovernmental cooperation. We just have to find the right document to get it done.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments regarding the?
And anything else on just the contract itself? Again, Jim Kankar's on board, Ralph Pakula. We're excited to see it happen. It's a tough project, MWRD, and nothing against their rules, because we do see things do flood, even the river backs up every now and then, right? So, I mean, this is going to be a really good improvement, and we thank the Forge for moving on it.
Okay. All right. There's no other questions or comments by the trustees. George, anything else? Are we good?
We're all good.
Okay, thanks, George. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, McClafferty,
Yes.
Snegowski,
I'm going to abstain to avoid even the appearance of a conflict of interest.
okay, and Stapleton,
Yes.
Kittredge. Kittredge,
And her audio might not be working, so we're going to go thumbs up. It's a COVID-19 emergency. We're going to allow that.
Yes.
Maher.
Yes.
Okay, motion approved.
The next item, my pages don't stick together, is a resolution R-21-20, and this is authorizing award of contract for the 2020 MFT road surfacing program project.
Okay, need a motion, please.
So moved, McClafferty.
Second, Maher.
Okay, motion by McClafferty, seconded by Maher. Ralph, are you taking this one?
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, go ahead, Ralph.
Yes.
I'm having some trouble hearing over here, but okay, so this is a resolution for the 2020 MFT road resurfacing program. 4 bids were received on this project. The engineer's estimate was $972,719.45. The low bid came in at $784,932.24, which is a fantastic bid. And that bid came from PT Farrell out of Joliet. We worked with PT Farrell the last 3 years in our road resurfacing program. Just to put it in perspective, last year we did 1.3 miles of roads. This year we're doing 2.89. So it's a huge increase for our town to get resurfaced. And staff recommendation is to award the contract to PT Farrell out of Joliet for $784,932.24. And this project includes Fordham Hills resurfacing, Kepatah Trails, 130th Place, and the Pulaski alley/street. So it's a fairly big project, and I hope to get this going by the end of June.
Great, thanks, Ralph. While I'm commenting here, George, can you just bring up the subdivisions, that map of the subdivisions that Ralph just commented on? I think it's in the.
No, I don't think I
packet.
had it. I did not have-
That's all right, no big deal. But to Ralph's point, jumping up to almost 2.9 miles, again, we're able to afford this because of the 1% sales tax that we passed. So it takes almost a year, right, Ralph, to, if you got a commitment to funding, you have to, put these projects out to bid. And so we've gone through that cycle, and it's great to see that we're putting the money, that sales tax money to use, and that's solely dedicated to infrastructure projects, both, water and sewer. And again, great to see this done. And Ralph, any comment on timing on when the road work is going to happen?
I'd like to get it started by the end of June. It all depends on their schedule at PT Farrell. And I'd like to get it wrapped up, hopefully by the end of July.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for all your work on this. And like I said, it's exciting to get these projects done, and nearly 3 miles of road work is phenomenal. So again, thank you. With that being said, any other questions or comments by the trustees? Okay, well, thanks, Ralph. Can we have a roll call, please, Charlene?
McClafferty,
Yes.
Snegowski,
Yes.
Stapleton,
Yes.
Kittredge,
She can't figure out her microphone. There you go.
Kittredge,
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up? All right. Thumbs up.
okay. Kwasniewski
Yes.
and Maher.
Yes.
Okay, motion approved.
The next resolution would be R-22-20, and this is basically to allow outdoor seating to Lamont restaurants.
Okay, need a motion to approve, please.
So
moved,
Staple.
Snegowski.
Okay,
Sorry. Go ahead, Ron.
Motion by trustee Stapleton, seconded by trustee Snegowski. George, are you taking this one?
Yeah, and I'll kick it off and turn it over to Mike. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And as we talked about earlier, we added an item on the agenda without a meeting until June. We think it's pertinent to at least talk about it tonight and give some general guidance to staff and legal. Governor Pritzker yesterday at his press conference, well, some towns and I know the village was even looking at it beforehand, but he clearly made a statement yesterday during his press conference that phase 3, and we'll go through that a little bit more, when we enter phase 3 at the end of this month, restaurants, one of the real issues we had in some other towns is that restaurants would still no longer be able to open until phase 4. Now there's been some discussion on allowing outdoor dining in phase 3. We've been talking internally at a staff level with the attorney and the mayor, brainstorming the best way to handle it, and we have a meeting with the businesses tomorrow. I think tonight it would be a good idea to have some direction from the board to allow staff to continue to build this policy. But Mike, can I turn it over to you, Mike, and I
Sure.
maybe through what we have set up?
Sure. Thank you, George. As you stated yesterday, about 3 o'clock, the governor changed the opening of restaurants, which, as we know, is part of the Restore Illinois program or plan. Previous to yesterday, restaurants were going to open, thanks for bringing that up, in phase 4. Let me go back. I should say we're in phase 2, and based on the various metrics, which I've gone over before, I don't want to belabor it, but we're meeting all the various criteria all throughout the state in the 4 different regions to go into phase 3 on May 29th. There's a 28-day, each phase takes about 20, it takes 28 days. So if the governor hadn't made any changes, the soonest that restaurants and establishments that restaurants and bars food-wise would be able to open would have been June 26th, which assuming that all the metrics continue to be met. The governor has changed that after a significant lobby of various mayors, associations, and the Illinois Restaurant Association to allow limited restaurant opening in phase 3. But there is a caveat to that. The restaurant or any dining or any type of activity has to be done with outdoor seating and outdoor serving. So that will be in phase 3 starting on May 29th. But the governor also asked that that villages and municipalities come up with the various regulation, which leads us to believe that the state isn't going to tell us what we need to do. We have to come up with all the various rules. So it's a short time frame, short turnaround. The one thing that is going to be done is it allows us to expand consumption or food consumption in the restaurants. It allows us to expand that into the public right of way and also in parking lots if it's in a strip mall or so forth. Again, we have to get all the details down. It's been just over 24 hours. We've been using some of our resources to do that. But in order to have that alcohol, or in order to change and have the restaurants who are serving alcohol be in the public right of way or outside in an expanded parking lot, we need to provisionally amend our code, and it's indicated there in our title of your of the Lamont Village Code, where we're not going to be enforcing in those areas during that time public consumption of alcohol. So there's 2 parts of this resolution. The first part is giving the board, if you agree, would be authorizing village staff to come up with the plans and then obviously publish them for the May 29th opening. And the second part of it is to allow to provisionally waive the open consumption of alcohol in those areas. I mean, people aren't going to be walking up and down the street. That's not going to change. That'll be enforced. It would only be enforced in the areas where that are utilizing this new opportunity based on the change in the law.
And Mike, just to clarify, when we say waive the ability to allow the public consumption of alcohol, it's the consumption of alcohol that is purchased from these restaurants legally, correct?
Correct.
Meaning you can't take alcohol from your house in a cup and drink it publicly. This would just be.
Yeah, absolutely correct. Yes.
Okay.
So the thought would be is that the restaurants would be able to actually start to open and sell food and alcohol along with it. So it would not be able to bring in a bag or bring in a cup and going to the restaurant. That is correct.
And Mike, just to clarify, so we're in phase 2 for, at least till I believe what is May 29th. So in phase 2, we will, people would be able to order food and liquor that is in a prepackaged container or its original container, such as a beer can. You can order that from a restaurant that sells liquor as carryout legally. You can pick it up, correct? And when you pick it up,
Yes.
you would then be able to, during phase 2, which is the next week or so, be able to eat or drink that outside in their designated area. Is that correct?
Well, it's our legal opinion that that's allowed. In fact, other places have been doing that already. And that is for a short time frame. So that is kind of being done from what I understand in almost everywhere. And so yes, the answer would be yes. And then this handles essentially phase 3 as well. When phase 3 comes to the difference between phase 2 and phase 3 is we're still in the carry out and we pick it up and you can get the package good. But in phase 3, it goes to the point where now you can actually be served food and alcohol as long as it's outside. So that's the key difference.
So
Mike,
phase
is there a
three-
reason we need to complicate this other than just to allow it as outdoor dining, the same as we do currently at, say, for example, Next Mex or the Tap House or Three Corners, where they currently have outdoor eating? Why can't we just extend that language rather than tying it back to COVID and all this other? Why do we need to do that?
Well, because it wouldn't
If
be
we
in
approve
there.
an outdoor eating area, then we approve it under the same conditions that we currently have outdoor eating, period.
Correct.
We
but
don't
the-
go into carrying in alcohol from your house. You know, it's automatically not allowed in those other instances. Why can't we just expand that?
Because the thought is that not every restaurant would be able to have the opportunity to have that outdoor seating. Some of them would have to go on a public right of way. Some of them in the
Right.
downtown area, we might. So we have
Agreed.
to.
So if they are in an authorized area of the public right of way or private property, then the same guidelines would apply that currently do for outdoor dining, period.
That may work. The end goal is the same, but we did this in a manner to ensure
Okay.
that
If you've already done it, that
No,
it just seems
I
that
mean,
everything to
this-
do with this is so complicated. By the time we get done, we don't know what the hell we're talking about.
Yeah, and Mike-
again, we're taking a crack at this in literally in 8 hours. So this is
Right.
what we thought would do it, but I'm not. I'm always open to any other suggestions, and with your guidance, if that's what you want, I am happy to change it. But I do think
Well,
we need
I'm
the
just
guidance,
suggesting-
and a vote on it.
Right. My suggestion is that wherever possible, if we could expand what we currently have on the books, rather than rewriting it and developing something that we didn't have, that we try to just mimic what we already have. So if we
The-
can
the only-
expand where those places are allowed for outdoor dining, either in the public right of way or on private property, then use the same guidelines we currently have for outdoor dining, period.
Well,
I
Part of the
don't know.
problem is
Yep.
going to be, and I'm sorry to interrupt, part of the problem is going
Yep.
to be that the state is going to require significant regulations, and we have our neighbor, well, close to being a neighbor, Joliet, has really put together with national help some policies on that are 10 pages that I think it's kind of a model on, as
I
far
agree,
as social distancing.
but I do believe
So
that
we
some
have
of
to do that
those,
part.
some of the towns that were coming up with 10 pages were doing it because the governor hadn't backed off, which he has now done. So as he backs out and opens up things to phase 3, then it becomes less complicated. That's exactly why if you go rogue, then you have to have all this other information because you're bucking the system. It seems to me now he's reducing those requirements. Now, maybe Joliet doesn't need 10 pages anymore. They did 3 days ago, but they may not need
Well,
it now.
To show you how, at least other places, how complicated it is, Chicago isn't even going to open on May 26th until they have more regulations in June. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
whatever you
I don't
guys
know.
have already drafted, I'm sure it'll
No,
work.
And Rick, this is and we were talking earlier today about simplifying it, and this is just an overall policy that allows us to be a little bit more flexible, because what we're going to do is we're going to keep it simple. We're not going to tell everybody what we think they should do. We're going to have the business owners, reach out to community development, and they probably all have Jason's cell phone. And if you're interested in doing it, tell us what you're thinking, and then we'll apply what we think is safe and within the law, and we'll bless it based on each application. Okay, you can do this, you can do that. And this just gives us the ability to be a little bit more flexible.
How many total liquor licenses do we have out right now? Ballpark? 20, 25?
25, yeah.
So I mean, if we copy 20 pieces of paper that say no outside alcohol allowed, not outside, that's a wrong term. No brought in alcohol allowed. Then you have people not bring it in. I mean, it's been done many other times in town for these types of areas. So I get it. I'm just, if we have to do anything further, I would recommend we do it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and I think just to piggyback off that, I think, Rick, what it does is it, we don't know. Some businesses might not open up, some may, and some may need additional space above and beyond their current space. And I think it allows us to be flexible to assign space that is public right away to them that, they currently don't have. And so it's just, I think it's more of a flexibility, but yeah, I
Well,
totally.
right,
totally
John.
get what you said.
And all I'm saying is if somebody calls up and says, what does it take for me to do this? I don't want to hand them 10 pages of legal mumbo jumbo.
Right.
I'd like to be able to explain to them in 3 sentences, here's what you do. Put up a sign, says you can't bring in your own alcohol, and here's where you can go. That's what I'm getting at. So that the people can move forward and know what they need to do to be legal. That's it.
Right. And that's what we're, for Friday's meeting, we were just talking about that today, to have an easy 1 page or whatever cheat sheet for the businesses, like, hey, what do we need? You got to designate that area. Talk to Jason, let's make sure that area, at least there's some egress, type of,
Yes. Okay.
traffic flow, that sort of thing. So, okay.
And the thing, hey, the one thing I just want to add when we're going through that is we just need to have the ability to pull it from a business if a business if something's going wrong. That's my biggest concern, right? If they got, if this turns into a soiree where we got 500 people on Stevens Street between 4 businesses, right? That's not the intent of what we're trying to do. So I just want us to be able to have the ability to control it where we need to. That's my most important thing. And as easy as possible. Let's get the businesses open.
Yeah, Dave, to that point, we talked about that today. Like, we're not going to have like a public, I guess, general meeting there. Each restaurant has to have their own specific space. And they have to have proper social distancing. Because the last thing we want is, 40 people on a small sidewalk and they're all on top of each other. And, that's not what this is about. It's about making sure, again, that we're safe, social distancing properly. And if we do have a lot of people at a specific place, let's make sure there's enough room for that specific place. And Jason can figure out how we could accommodate that space. But again, we might have some businesses that flat don't open up, but we know we've heard loud and clear that several are.
Can you hear me? It's echoing. Okay.
Yes.
Can we just make sure like no entertainment so that at least that it does avoid that? So I'll put that in the rules. And I'm really annoyed with myself, so I don't like this voice thing. So I'm not going to talk anymore.
So Janelle, you're saying we don't want an outside band or anything that's in the small public space that they're going to be given,
Right.
essentially.
Right.
Be against the spirit of the rule.
Yeah, I think there might be music. I mean, your point is we want to make sure there's social distancing. And if you're saying if we have potentially live entertainment, it might create people not doing what they should be from a distance standpoint. Is that your concern, Janelle?
I just think it'll make people want to hang around way too much longer than just eating, drinking, enjoying their time and getting out. So I just don't think we want people like the soiree thing happening, and that would if we had entertainment outside.
Got it. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Thanks, George. Thanks, Mike. Go ahead. We'll have a roll call, please, Charlene.
Okay, McClafferty,
Yes.
Nagowski,
Yes.
Stapleton,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
okay, Wisniewski,
Yes.
Yes,
Maher.
I want to add one other thing is I'm willing to have a meeting next week. So if we have new rules, so we can review them as well. So we're also able to communicate with people when this comes up. Obviously, this is a big social media topic. So it's important for us to be able to have the talking points. Very important for us to have the talking points of what we're doing. So, but I mean,
So
yes.
what we thought of, and Dave, what we thought about doing, because this is going to move pretty quick, is we have our business meeting on Zoom tomorrow. Introduce it, talk about it. Again, put the feeler out that, hey, you need to apply to do something like this and tell us what you're thinking. We'll react. Jason will work with police chief, making sure it's safe, and then they need to prep and buy material. So if we can do it administratively, that's kind of what we want to do with this ordinance, and we can send out before Wednesday. Here's what we're thinking. Here's where we're going. Here's how we're going to communicate it. But we're starting. Jason's already received probably 10 calls from businesses. This thing's moving because the businesses have to buy equipment and PPE, and so I just want to make that note.
Thanks, George. So Dave was the last one, right, Charlene? So
Yeah.
motion approved. Okay, next up on the agenda is village attorney report. Mike, do you have anything else?
Let me turn up, I turned my mute on, my apologies. Other than we've been working on that, and obviously everything having to do with the changes. I can add, there were a couple other changes from yesterday if you'd like.
Yeah, sure.
Largely they had to do with recreation. Well, actually a couple things. Recreation for the golfers. Golf will, as of May 29th, will go to foursomes. They will also, clubhouses are allowed to open as far as pro shops. Not as limited of a time because they found out that has, it's not been needed. So we'll be in line with what all the other states around us now. Tennis will be allowed again, both indoor and outdoor. However, there are certain regulations as to the use of tennis balls. I don't know what they are. I guess you have to mark them and make sure that other people who aren't playing won't use them. Boating is now going to be more than two. I think it'd been a problem where people who are boating families couldn't go if it was more than two. So that'll be changed as well.
Yeah, to 10.
Yeah,
We went from 2 to 10.
Right. Yeah. No in between there. They went big.
No.
So gyms will. It has been again confirmed. Gyms will be open, but it'll only be for individual training. So they won't be open for everyone else. In outdoor classes, and Trustee, you just hit on it. The key difference is right now, it was less than 10, but it had to be for essential business. But as of the change on May 29th, it will be less than 10, but it doesn't have to be in the same household, and it doesn't have to be essential. So people can get together, sit around as long as it's less than 10. So those are the new changes that have been clarified by the governor yesterday. I expect that we'll keep on getting new changes, and as we do, we'll be letting you know and working with everyone.
What does it mean when you say for individual training for fitness centers? No classes? Is that what you're saying? Or
no classes. Classes can be outside, but no more than 10.
okay.
So, but individual, so one-on-one training at the is allowed.
What about self-serve? Like if I go to a gym and work out at a gym on a treadmill, is that allowed?
That is not going to be allowed. But what I've seen is I just got a survey from my gym. They're going to have four trainers, and they're essentially, you're going to pay more. And if the trainer is there and you need the trainer's help, they'll be there to give you the help, but you can do your own thing, but it's going to be only the same amount of the trainers that they have, and the most it'll be is 4. So, and it's
Okay.
going to be quadruple the cost of it used to be. So, that
In summer.
yeah. So, and the soonest that Senator Hastings, not too far from our area, is working on trying to change those a little bit. And I saw a report from him today that he's made progress. So expect that there'll be some clarification before the next phase, which would be June 26th, at least on that area.
And then does
Yeah.
are pools included in gyms? Public
No.
Pools or like lap swimming or anything?
No,
I thought
and
they were opening the pools too, Mike, no?
well, here's what I was told, and again, I was told the last thing that's going to open are pools.
Okay.
There has been some indication that pools would be open, but the reason why is you would think pools are very one of the safest places because chlorine. I mean, that's what they put in there, but apparently the COVID virus does not survives in a pool, and they want to be careful with it. But most outdoor pools are not going to be opening for a while.
Okay, it sounds like Hastings is working on his lifetime health center, so
Yeah,
that'll be the push.
and then that's another good point. And with Hastings, there are a couple in leadership on both parties that are working with the different business groups to kind of help and modify the Restore Illinois opening. And I would expect in the next couple days, by hopefully tomorrow, you're going to hear a lot more. Kelly Burke is legal and professional services. That's what she's doing. So I think that's about all. But as always, I'll keep you updated, Mayor and Board, as it occurs.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. All right. Next up, George, do you have anything on your report?
You know what, actually, I had some internet problems, so I had to go to a backup computer. I basically, and that's done for the PowerPoint presentation, but just to notify everybody, we're gonna have a board meeting, our usual board meeting schedule. We already went through that today, and we'll see that in June, our June committee of the whole. If anyone's interested, we're gonna be talking a little bit more budget, back to budget, and seeing the revenues come in, and talking about grant applications and some other. There is money out there with IDOT at the state level, so stay tuned. But June we'll get on our regular schedule, and since I'm losing the internet, I'll turn it back over to you to finish up here.
All right. Thanks, George. Next up, any board reports? Any of trustees have anything?
No.
All right. Okay. Any new unfinished business? All right. Next up, audience participation. George, you want to take that?
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna have to do it on my. I didn't see any hands up, but if you, let me see here. Come on. Anybody can put your. If you wanted to speak to now, you can put your hand up, and I'll unmute you. Keep it to 3 minutes or less, but I will give you another couple minutes. But again, same thing. You had an opportunity earlier, and now's the time if you want to address the board. And I don't see anything, Mr. Mayor, so I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay. All right. So did someone say something, George? No. Okay. All right. With that being said, no executive session. Need a motion to adjourn the meeting, please.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Lafferty.
Second, Maher.
Okay. Motion by McClafferty, seconded by Maher. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion is approved. We are done for this evening. Thank you, everyone.